Hello, listeners. Mary Alice here. March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and we're rerunning the impactful conversation we had with Olivia Culpo after she first revealed her endometriosis diagnosis. Like so many women, Olivia suffered excruciating painful periods, with her symptoms constantly dismissed, doctor after doctor. She was told it was something women have to endure. Since Dr. A diagnosed her, Olivia has been an advocate for endometriosis awareness, sharing her journey to help others understand the condition better. If you've been a longtime listener of SheMD, you know that Dr. A will always remind us that painful periods are not normal. Our hope is these conversations contribute to broader conversations about female healthcare, encouraging all of us to grow our vocabulary around the symptoms we feel and be our own health advocate. I hope you enjoy this amazing episode with Olivia.
Hi, I'm Dr. Aliabadi. If you struggle with irregular cycles, acne, facial hair, body hair loss, or insulin resistance, you might be dealing with PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome. Having dedicated my life to helping women with PCOS, I understand the challenges in getting an accurate diagnosis and the right care. That's why I created OV. OV is designed to help you take control of your health with clinically proven, validated ingredients in a simple, once-a-day solution. For too long, women with PCOS have had to choose between lifelong prescriptions or complicated supplement regimens. OV offers a better way to help manage your symptoms without the hassle. It's my mission to empower women facing PCOS and other hormonal issues by providing the information and support they need. Reclaim your health once and for all. Go to OV.com. That's OVII.com and start today.
Welcome to SheMD. I'm Mary Alice Haney, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Thais Aliabadi.
Today, we're so lucky to have my beautiful and sweet patient, Olivia Culpo.
Olivia is an actress, model, influencer, and endometriosis advocate. She spent 12 years without a diagnosis before she found Dr. A. We're going to talk to her all about her journey with endometriosis, fashion, everything. We shot this around Christmas, so there is a big fat Christmas tree in the background. We hope this episode is helpful to anyone whose pain is being dismissed, because here at SheMD, our goal is to give you the tools to be your own health advocate. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health.
Hi, Olivia.
How are you guys?
Hi, cutie. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh my God, where is that your house?
So I'm in San Francisco, so this is our rental that we have. But yeah, I have a little tree.
Oh my God, I know. It's not a little tree. It's a big tree. Or you might
Not that big actually, but I'm glad it's giving big. Actually, yes, it kind of is. But I haven't decorated it yet.
So we're a little teeny bit late today because this is a very big day for Thais.
First of all, thank you for doing this for me. I think since the first day I met Olivia, I don't know what happened, but I was like, please, if you have a platform, if you have a voice, make sure you talk about endometriosis. And you're one of my very few patients who actually kept her promise, because people come, they feel better, and they disappear. So thank you. I know you've always talked about it. You did it on your show. You do it on your social media. And I think you've helped so many women. So thank you for being here. I'm not surprised that you're here. You're amazing.
But of course.
This podcast is especially significant for me, and I'll forever remember 12/12/23, because today I went to court and I adopted my little Coco officially.
Yay! Oh my God, I just got chills. That is so exciting.
It was the most emotional day, and we had like 40 of my friends and family show up, and the judge was like, no, you guys can't come in. I said friends, but I've never in my life seen friends like this. You can't all come in. This is a wedding. But she finally gave in and we all went in. So it was an emotional day.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And for the listeners that don't know, Coco is Thais's foster daughter who she brought home from the hospital, and she adopted her officially today. So we're going to always remember this day that we had you on the podcast. And Olivia, I'm going to fashion geek out with you because we were just talking before you joined. We were saying like, you're so drop dead gorgeous, and everybody like you see that, but it is the way you carry yourself. It is the kindness that you have in your heart, and it's your style. Like, and I know that you're so stylish because you wore my brand Haney 3 times when I first started.
I did.
You were like. So this picture, and I know that the listeners can't see it, but this was a party that Forward had for me in the Hamptons on that yacht. And you came and you wore that red jumpsuit, which was amazing. And then this you wore in Paris to the Hader Ackerman show. Can you see that?
Yes, I remember that. It was the best.
Yeah. And Celine Dion saw that picture of you and had her stylist call and said, I want that outfit. I want you to not make it for anybody else. And so she ended up grabbing it. And then this was a Rolling Stones.
Yes, I remember that. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. That was like before the monochromatic jogger set was the thing with heels.
Yeah.
I feel like and it was so comfortable. So I'm glad Celine Dion approved.
I'm glad she did. She's like, oh my God, that first of all, she's like, that I don't think I'll ever be able to wear it quite like that. Well, my 2 boys, Christian McCaffrey is their favorite McCaffrey. And that shows you, like, I could talk about Schindel and say that properly, but when it gets to football, I'm like, they're like, Mom, no way. You are not having her on your podcast. Like, no way. Do you know that her husband is the best football player? And I'm never cool in any way, shape, or form. But so anyway.
That's so funny.
Can you tell us, like Thais and Olivia, can you guys tell us how you guys met and like your journey with endometriosis? And I think most women don't understand that endometriosis and PCOS, and we'll talk about the differences, causes fertility issues. And if you don't figure it out when you're young, you can have major fertility issues when you get older. That's something I've learned from working with Thais. But can you talk to the listeners and tell them about your journey and how you guys met and sort of and what happened with that?
Absolutely. So we met through mutual friends. My best friend, Kristen, and I did Sports Illustrated together. And then she was like, I have this really great guy. You have to meet him. And I was like, I'm not dating any athletes, no athletes ever. She's like, come on, just give this guy a chance. He went to Stanford with my husband. He's a great guy. And I was like, okay, he went to Stanford. Maybe he's fine. And then of course on the social media era, you just stalk these people. And the first thing I noticed was that he was really close with his family. I'm very close with my family. That's always a great sign. He comes from a really great family. And so I agreed to meet him, and then the rest is history. We're really happy. That was almost 4 years ago. So it's flown by.
Before that, had you already dealt with your endometriosis? And I know you guys are thinking about starting a family, or are you thinking about starting a family? And did you think about that when you were younger? Like, how old were you when you started, having issues or thinking, oh, I might have endometriosis?
From the first period I ever had, I had very abnormal symptoms, and they were embarrassing. I was afraid to talk about them with anybody, even my own parents. My symptoms were very embarrassing to me at that time. So I think that's probably why I empathize with a lot of people out there who maybe don't want to talk about their endometriosis, but it's also why I feel even more responsibility to use my platform, because it's not easy to talk about these issues that we have. They're very intimate. But anyway, I always had my problems with endometriosis. The debilitating pain happened and continued to progress as I got older. And that's when it really started to affect my day-to-day life, and where I really could not function. I could not function. It was the most pain I've ever been in my entire life. And that's when I had to kind of share it with my partner, because it affects every single day. You really can't get out of the house some days because the pain is so excruciating. So those are the moments that really bonded us. And I will say his mom had really painful periods. And I always joke with her, well, we don't really joke, but I always tell her how appreciative I am, because she taught all of her 4 boys that when you have your period, when it's that time of the month, you do everything for the woman of the house. And because of that, when I had my period with Christian, he would draw me a bath. He'd bake me cookies. He'd ask me anything that I ever needed. And he still does that. He's the best partner, the best example. He saw it firsthand from his mom, and I give her all the credit in the world for just raising exceptional boys. And I'm so grateful not only I have him as a partner, but I'm so grateful that he's an example to so many men out there because that's how it should be.
It should be that. And from, a mama with boys, I always say, like, we talk about things like that. We're like, girls have periods and it's a menstrual cycle and that is a vagina. I remember McLean saw me naked when he was little one time and he like turned his head around and he's like, is that your vagina? And I was like, yeah, that's my vagina. And he goes, I come out of that? And I was like, yes, you did. And he goes, it's magic. And I was like, it is magic. You're right about that. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
That's so cool. So, and then how did you find Thais? And so you mean to tell me that from the time you first had your period until, because you met Christian, 4 years ago? Like up until that point, you were just dealing with debilitating periods?
Yes. And Dr. A, or Thais, I always call her doctor, she would be able to tell us more about the science behind that. But basically, as your periods get worse and the endometrial tissue builds up after every period, every single month that you have, the pain gets worse and worse and worse because there's just more tissue. So when you're first starting out with your period, yes, you have this abnormal growth sometimes. Like I definitely did because I have recto-vaginal endometriosis. So like my symptoms, I could see them since I was very young. So anyway, I didn't really experience the physical symptoms from a very young age. I could see that I was bleeding in areas that I shouldn't be bleeding in, basically, when you have a period. So my debilitating pain, though, happened more as I got older in my late, I would say 20s is when it got really, 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 really bad to the point where I was unable. It was just getting in the way of my everyday routine and everyday life. And it was scary. It's the type of pain that scares you because you know that there's something wrong and there's no answer. And at the time, nobody knew what was wrong with me. And I was also very embarrassed of my symptoms. So it's kind of it's like a myriad of issues and problems that I went through to get to where I am now.
I think I met Olivia, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was in 2020, no? And I remember when I met her, she was complaining of 10 out of 10 period pain. What I want our listeners to understand is, prior to seeing me, how many doctors had you seen?
At least 12.
And what did they tell you?
Everything under the sun. That the worst was like, the worst things. Okay, I have recto-vaginal endometriosis. So it's like cross between your vagina and your rectum. Obviously, they're like, are you sure you're wiping correctly? Are you sure that you're really having these symptoms? Are you sure that your pain is that bad? Painful periods are normal. No, I can't give you an ultrasound right now because you're bleeding. Maybe come back in a month. Let's just put you on birth control. Have you tried hormone pills? There were people that were trying to rob me for my money. And then there were people that just simply thought I was overreacting, which is so painful. I mean, you're sitting there and you literally, I remember feeling like I felt like I was going to die. I was in so much pain. And it's in that lower back, we call it butt lightning, but it's the worst pain ever. Imagine getting
butt lightning. I think let's make that
yeah.
Honestly, that is, I've actually heard women describe it like that, but I've never heard it called butt lightning. So I love it. Butt lightning. That's a great word for it.
Worst butt lightning. And they're just and you're hot, you're hormonal, you're sensitive, you're in excruciating pain. And then someone's going to tell you that you're overreacting or that you're lying or just making you feel insane. So anyway.
So she came to my office complaining of, obviously severe painful periods. And I think you also had painful sex, no? Was that one of your symptoms?
Not actually, thank God. That would just
good.
Be that cherry on top. But I think more because mine's localized, more in the back. I never really had that, thankfully.
So basically, for our listeners, one message I want to give is that if you go to the doctor or if your periods are painful, it's not normal. I wanted a billboard for my birthday on the 405 freeway that said painful periods are not normal. So that's the first message that people need to understand. And if you have painful periods and you go to doctors, you're a good example because you're someone who you have a platform, you have money, you have insurance, you have access, and yet you are getting dismissed for so many years. On average, patients get diagnosed at age 32. So average age of diagnosis for endometriosis is around 32, because these patients either start having debilitative pain that they can't function, so they bounce from doctor to doctor until someone diagnoses them, or they end up in a fertility clinic because they can't get pregnant. One of the lucky things with Olivia was when I met her, she had a lot of eggs, but not all endometriosis patients have her situation. So it's important. I've talked to Olivia about egg freezing. Every time she comes to my office, I'm like, great. So are you married? Do you have a partner? Are you going to freeze eggs? This is a discussion I have with every single patient. And if you've been to my office, you will know that egg freezing, or at least getting your egg count checked, is mandatory. Olivia has a lot of eggs, but a lot of people at her age, because of untreated endometriosis, are left with no eggs.
Heartbreaking. You think of these girls that if they had been treated, it took you 12 years to get treated. I read that somewhere, that it took you 12 years to get your diagnosis. And like she says, you're Olivia Culpo. You have all the resources in the world. And imagine these women in places in the United States that don't have access to a doctor like Thais, or have access to doctors that are amazing. But you say you would absolutely be able to put fertility doctors out of business if you could get every girl with a painful period into your office.
Once, at age 20.
Yeah.
That's all I need. Every 20-year-old to come through my office one time. I tell them what they need to do and they can go live their life. The reality of it is, painful period is the most common symptom of endometriosis. Painful sex with deep penetration is also a common symptom. A lot of patients have bladder infections, recurrent UTIs. These are patients who their bladder gets irritated and they bounce in and out of their doctor's office. They get prescribed antibiotics without a positive culture and they go home. So I get these patients to my office and they come and say, well, I've had 9 bladder infections this year. As soon as they say that, I'm like, it's probably endometriosis. And usually the next question I ask them is, show me your positive urine culture. If you've had 9 UTIs, you must have had some cultures, and they can't show it to me. So UTI symptoms, bloating, severe bloating with your period, painful sex, painful, chronic pelvic pain. The most common cause of a chronic pelvic pain in a woman in her reproductive age is endometriosis. What's shocking to me, Olivia, and patients always ask me this, is here you have the top cause of pain in a young woman, yet it takes doctors 9 to 11 years to diagnose it.
But
and
why? Why is it so hard to diagnose? Like, why? How did this happen?
Is it hard? It's not. You diagnose it. If you send Olivia into a crowd, she's going to pick out all the endo patients. So it's not. You just have to listen to your patient. So I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if endometriosis patients take a little bit more time. You need to take care of them. Some of them need surgery. They bounce in and out. Your body is not a light switch. It takes a while to treat these patients. So
what about the clotting? Is there clotting or bleeding that comes with that too?
Endometriosis can also affect the wall of the uterus. A lot of patients also have adenomyosis, which can cause heavy, painful periods. And so by doing surgery, you remove the implants that are outside of the uterus, but you can't really remove the ones that are in the wall of the uterus, causing the heavy period, miscarriages, painful periods. For those, you need progesterone suppression. So there are so many different ways we can treat these, but I'll go over all of that. But I just want to, for me, it was so good to have Olivia here because she's a perfect example of someone who goes to the doctor, does her part to find out what's wrong with her, and still gets dismissed. And I always say, if men had endometriosis and they would have pelvic pain, the level of your pain, Olivia, once a month, that would affect their egg count and egg quality over time. Do you think they would get dismissed?
I know. That is so true.
Founded and led by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is on a mission to develop products that go deeper than surface level results typical to most skincare products. I am a big fan of OneSkin's OS1 peptides, which work on the cellular level for lasting results. The first ingredient scientifically proven to interrupt a core aging process, cellular senescence. Senescence happens when our cells stop rejuvenating, producing collagen and elastin due to aging and UV exposure. And yes, I only recently learned about senescence, even though I've been experiencing it for years. Since using OS1, I've noticed less redness and irritation on my skin. It almost has a calming effect, if that makes sense. And because I now have fewer senescent cells, my skin looks and feels more radiant and healthy. Visit oneskin.co/SheMD and use code SheMD at checkout for 15% off your first purchase. Purely Elizabeth makes delicious granolas, oatmeals, and cereals, intentionally crafted with superfood ingredients. Our SheMD episodes featuring nutritionists are among our most popular with listeners. And that's why I'm happy to tell you about why I love Purely Elizabeth's products. The founder, Elizabeth, is a certified holistic nutrition counselor and health coach who believes it's possible for healthy foods to be enjoyable. And let me tell you, Purely Elizabeth's granola with crunchy clusters, ancient grains, and superfoods is exactly that. I eat this granola straight out of the bag. It's that good. Delicious, crunchy clusters with a unique salty sweet taste. Purely Elizabeth has a ton of granola flavors to choose from, like chocolate sea salt, blueberry hemp, vanilla almond butter, and my personal favorite, the original ancient grain granola. Visit purelyelizabeth.com and use code SheMD at checkout for 20% off. Purely Elizabeth. Taste the obsession. Have you heard about habit stacking? It's the practice of building new habits into your day-to-day routine with the goal of improving aspects of your life, your relationships, and your well-being. One of the key reasons most positive habits fall off is because we don't have a plan in place to stay consistent. That's why Prolon is better than any trend. Their 5-day program includes snacks, soups, and beverages designed to keep your body in a fasting state without starving. This made it easy for me, which means I'm more likely to continue the positive habits. To help you kickstart a health plan that truly works, Prolon is offering SheMD listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day nutrition program. Just visit prolonlife.com/SheMD. That's prolonlife.com/SheMD to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/SheMD.
I have thought about this obviously so much. Why did it take so long? And I do think some doctors are just simply not, they don't have the training, so they don't know. And then I think other doctors don't want to believe that it's something that they're not aware of because they want to maybe keep you as a patient. Because I had a lot of doctors who just said to me, just take 6 Advil the day before you're going to get your period. It will lighten the bleeding and it will help. And it's like, okay, that's a no. What about my liver? For example, like, why would you ever, so things like that. I don't know if they're necessarily bad doctors or they just don't have the training
Or the time.
That's the other thing too. Or a lot of doctors just wanted to push birth control on me right away, which I think obviously if I had started birth control, not everybody has the same reaction, but maybe I would have stopped bleeding. Maybe that would have subsided my symptoms and held them off for a little bit. But then also I had a cyst on my ovary. Like that would have gone completely unnoticed if I hadn't had my surgery. So who knows what that would look like now 5 years later after I already had my surgery, for example. There's so many things, which is the other reason why I'm so passionate about speaking to the doctors who are saving lives and who we need so desperately, like you.
Thais, walk us through, if you're listening and you have, what are the symptoms of endometriosis? What do you need to know that you can take to your own doctor to say, I have endometriosis? And you said you had surgery. So is that the only cure for it?
No, absolutely not. So like I said, endometriosis, the most common symptom is painful period, right?
What is endometriosis?
Very good question.
Thank you.
So think about in simple terms, from the day we get our period, which is about 12 and a half, to the day we're menopausal, which is about 51 and a half, our ovaries are trying to get us pregnant. They secrete a hormone and they stimulate the lining inside the uterus called endometrium. The cells inside the uterus respond to that hormone. The lining gets thick and juicy, ready for that embryo. And when we don't get pregnant, the lining sheds as a form of period. This happens month after month, year after year. 10% of women in the world, close your eyes and think of 10% of women you guys. Every time I go to a party, I'm like, oh my God, there's like 20 people here with endometriosis, undiagnosed probably. So 10% of the population has these endometrial cells or cells similar to it outside of the uterus, around the tubes and ovaries, which we call endometriosis. If these cells are inside the ovary, we call it an endometrioma. And if they are in the wall of the uterus, we call it adenomyosis. The condition is called endometriosis. So once a month, when these ovaries are secreting hormones, these little endometrial cells outside of the uterus also get stimulated. And that's the easiest way I can explain it. I hope it makes sense. And when we don't get our period and our lining breaks down, these cells also break down thinking they're in the uterus, but they're outside of the uterus. Blood is an irritant. You're not supposed to have blood outside of the uterus, inside the ovary, inside the wall of the uterus, right? Around your tubes and ovaries. So blood is an irritant and it starts an inflammatory process in the pelvis. That inflammation chronically, month after month, causes scarring of the tubes, adhesions or scar tissue formation in the pelvis, and eventually it will cause chronic pelvic pain. So it starts with painful periods, maybe a day before, and then after a few months, it's a couple of days before, and then a couple of days before, 2 days after, and eventually it turns into a chronic pelvic pain, and you have pain all month, right? So this is the simplest way I can describe endometriosis. One thing to remember is that endometriosis causes infertility in many different ways. Number one, this chronic inflammation could affect blood flow. It does affect, I want people to listen to this, endometriosis does affect your egg count and your egg quality. So you can have endometriosis and show up to my office undiagnosed with 0 egg count. I can fix everything you have. I cannot give you your egg count back, and I can't make the quality better. So it's our mission in life to protect those precious eggs. Mm-hmm. That's basically, so egg count and quality can go down. You can get scarring of your tubes. So if your tubes get blocked, you don't get pregnant. And some people think that when the egg gets released from the ovary, we need the tube to grab onto the egg. So inside the tube, it can meet with the sperm. But when you have so much inflammation in the pelvis, the inflammatory cells don't let the egg make it to the tube. So that's another maybe reason why patients are not getting pregnant. That's why when people do IUIs and they go to the doctor with endometriosis and the doctor takes the sperm and puts it in the uterus, they're not solving the problem. The problem is the egg going from the ovary into the tube and all that inflammation in the pelvis. Also, for patients who have adenomyosis, the wall of the uterus is very abnormal. So when they get pregnant, they're at a higher risk of having a miscarriage. So I watch my endometriosis patients very carefully. The reason Olivia has been doing so well is because she's had progesterone suppression. And is it okay to discuss that?
Oh, yeah.
So with a progesterone, she has a progesterone IUD in place. Not only it acts as a birth control, which is a very common birth control for women to use, but progesterone IUDs calm down the wall of the uterus, the adenomyosis, the endometriosis in the pelvis. Because remember, these little implants grow with estrogen, but their growth slows down with progesterone. So what I do in my practice, when someone has endometriosis, you always start with least aggressive treatment to the most aggressive. Least aggressive treatment being a combination low dose birth control pill or a progesterone birth control pill. You can do progesterone injections for birth control. You can do progesterone IUDs that I really like because they're local. They don't have too many systemic effects. And then you can go to medications like Orilissa, Myfrimbry, and these medications lower your body's estrogen. So in one way, you can suppress it with progesterone. In another way, you can lower your body's estrogen. Both ways work. Sometimes I do Orilissa and an IUD in a patient with severe disease. And the last resort for us is always surgery. Surgery is very technical, so not many people know how to do it. It's laparoscopic, it's outpatient. You have to not ablate or burn it. You have to actually grab it and cut it out. One day I will show you, maybe we can show it on this podcast. I did a laparoscopy on a patient with another surgeon who was assisting me. And when we looked in, she's like, oh, there's no endometriosis. I'm like, oh, absolutely there is. I'm going to find it. It took me 20 minutes. I could not find these dark brown spots that are very common, but there were these tiny, filmy white scars that you really need a magnifying glass to go near it to be able to identify it. And when I said I want to resect this area, my friend was like, there's no way this is endometriosis. I'm like, oh, yes, it is. So we did it. I sent it to pathology. And of course, it came back stromal endometriosis. So the stromal endometriosis lesions are extremely difficult to find. So these are patients who have the diagnosis of endometriosis. They do undergo surgery and they still wake up and the surgeon looks at them in the eye and says, what, Olivia? You don't have it.
Yeah.
So if I could have a microphone or a, what do you call it?
What are those
megaphone.
things? Megaphone.
In
You
every
have
home.
one right now.
I know, but I would go in every little
know.
girl's home, every teenage girl's room, and I would say, if you have painful periods, there's a solution. Women need to be their own advocate. I think Olivia was her own advocate. She went doctor to doctor until she got her answer.
And Olivia, so you met Thais, then you got surgery for it. So yours was so severe, it sounds like. So, and then did you wake up after that and were you just like, oh my God, thank God? I mean, you must have been.
Yes, definitely really excited. So, when I first went to Dr. Aliabadi, which was kind of funny, she was probably the third doctor I went to this week. Like Christian was like calling all the people he knew in the sports world, like trying to get somebody to help me because I was in so much pain and it was hard for everybody to see. She did one ultrasound and saw that I had an endometrioma right on my ovary. So like just right off that, she's like, oh, you have endometriosis. Like an endometrioma is one of the only things you actually can see on an ultrasound. But for the most part, also to anybody listening, not all endometriosis is going to show up in an ultrasound that you would get at your doctor. You have to get a laparoscopic surgery because it's in the back of the uterus. It can be like on the lining of the rectum. It can be everywhere. I mean, it can be on your bladder. It can be on the most like near your appendix, everywhere. Tell us all the places you've found endometriosis.
Everywhere. You can have it all the way up to your liver. You can have it on your bowel, on the bladder, on the rectum, behind the uterus, anterior to the uterus, around the ovaries, around the tubes, everywhere. And we stage endometriosis surgically 1 to 4. So one message, and Olivia, you're so smart. I mean, you know so much about endometriosis. I feel like I wish you were a doctor because a lot of patients come to me. They're like, well, my doctor said your ultrasound is normal, so you don't have endometriosis. False. Majority of patients with endometriosis have completely normal ultrasound findings. So this is a diagnosis that we get with laparoscopy. But if you assume you can treat, you don't need to do surgery on these patients. Does it make sense?
Yes. So, but you're diagnosed with endometriosis, usually you have to get surgery, right?
Not always, because if you put these patients on progesterone, birth control, progesterone IUD, and their pain goes away, you don't have to go chasing after it. When I met Olivia, she already had an endometrioma, which is a sign of a more advanced disease in the pelvis that needs to be addressed. And that's what we did. And she's been doing well. There's one more thing I want to say. There are doctors who operate on their patients annually. I had an endometriosis patient come to me and she said, I'm like, why are you here? She's like, I'm here for my 12th laparoscopy. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, I get them every year. Like she was going to lunch with her aunt. And I was like, no, why? She's like, why do you think? Because unless you suppress endometriosis, it will come back. If you resect colon cancer in a patient, do you ever tell them, all right, sir, you're good to go. I'll see you in 6 months. No, because he's going to come back in 6 months with cancer everywhere, right? So what do? You resect the colon cancer and you give him chemo. Endometriosis is not cancer, but it does need hormonal suppression until menopause. So when you resect the endometriosis, you have to suppress these patients because a lot of them will bounce back 6 months to 2 years on your chair with the same symptoms. I've had patients where they do, they go to their doctor, they do endometriosis surgery, they remove an endometrioma, they don't put that progesterone IUD, they don't start progesterone afterwards, or Oralisa, or Myfirmby, or some form of suppression, and literally 2 months later, their endometrioma is back.
Yeah, that's one thing that I want to scream on a megaphone too, because it is kind of not annoying, but I wish people were more educated on that part too. People are like, oh, you're better now. Like, you don't have endometriosis anymore. It went away. Yay. It's like, it never goes away. It's a lifelong commitment of repressing it. And so eventually, for example, when I want to have kids, I'll get off of the IUD. I'll have to probably deal with some unbearable pain and then hopefully get pregnant. And then once I have my kids, I'll probably have to get another surgery and then get back on the IUD. But I have kind of like a roadmap, and everybody out there with endometriosis, I wish that was something that they knew, because it's not one and done. It's not like one surgery and you're done forever. It's not just get on birth control and then you're done forever, most likely. Like, maybe you have a miraculous situation, but like more than likely it's a lifelong thing that you have to continue to suppress. Otherwise, you'll just be right back to square one.
And what I do with someone like Olivia, I do believe, Olivia, I'm confident you're going to get pregnant. She's had her surgery. She's been suppressed now for many years. So her endometriosis, symptomatically, it's controlled. Her egg count is amazing. The inflammation in her pelvis is down. So probably a couple of months before, oh yeah, I'm confident. Couple of months before she wants to try for pregnancy, we'll just pull her IUD. And, I always tell patients, I don't want to pull it and have you wait for 6 months. I'll pull it when you're ready to go. And then I'll have them try. And if you take 100 couples, 50% of them get pregnant in the first 6 months they try. 90% get pregnant for the first year.
Wow.
So I usually tell my endometriosis patients, go try for 6 months. You need to have sex 3 times a week. It's a homework.
I've seen, Christian, that's not going to be hard for you. Let me just say that. I'm just going to put that out there in the world. That is not going to be a hard situation. Let's just put it out there.
So you have sex 3 times a week. You give yourself 6 months. And then if you get pregnant, which I'm sure you will because you're young, your eggs are healthy, your egg count is amazing, your endometriosis is suppressed. And that is exactly how you take someone like Olivia, hopefully, out of the hands of fertility specialists.
Well, can we just talk can we give a big round of applause for that? Because that is, I remember I had my first baby at 34 and my second one at 35. And then I got remarried and we had 5 kids together. And I tried to trick him in my 40s to have another one, but I wasn't able to. It's just, it
gets hard.
When you're young, you try so hard not to get pregnant. And then when you're ready to get pregnant, It's not as easy as you think it is. So I love hearing that for you. That's amazing. Have you, just talking about thinking about all this, have y'all decided, have you picked a date? Have you picked a dress? Can we talk about fashion? What's happening?
Oh, yes, of course we can. So the wedding is going to be early summer. We're in the middle of figuring out and finalizing the dress. I am working with a designer that I can't mention yet, but I'm very excited.
You have the best style, so I can't wait to see you.
Thank you. Well, this is actually Christian, so he has good taste.
It's the true boyfriend sweater. That's really what it is. It's an actual
Can you believe this fits him? I'm just like, well, actually, no, it doesn't fit him. He buys all of these European nice brands and he thinks that he's an extra large. The reality of these European Pradas and stuff, he just doesn't fit into them. So then they become mine. Because he's huge.
So one thing that when I was that I didn't know about you when I was sort of researching before the podcast, and I'm sure that Dr. A doesn't know this either, but when you were Miss Universe, you're a cellist.
Yes.
I know.
Look at that
Yeah,
face.
I know.
And she could also play the freaking cello. I didn't know that. How old were you when you did that?
I started in first grade. So when I was 6 years old, my parents are both musicians. So we all played instruments. I'm one of 5. So we all just kind of grew up. It was like one big band camp.
That's amazing. I know. I think about that sometimes. I'm so not musically inclined, so it's not a thing for me. Olivia, in terms of thinking about, you know, where you are now, and we have so many listeners that I think, you know, look up to a lot of our podcasts and guests, and if you could, you know, think about your journey with endometriosis or your journey just kind of where you are right now, what would you want to tell someone listening?
I would tell that person first and foremost, advocate for yourself. You are not crazy, and just keep your head down and keep advocating for yourself. Don't take no for an answer. And then secondly, I would tell them to rely on social media. Honestly, that helped me so much. Crying in the bath, unable to go about my day, feeling gaslit by everybody around me, saying that it's not that big of a deal. Painful periods are normal, or like, oh yeah, I hate when I get my period too, but you still got to go to work. It's like, in those moments I couldn't, like I was in so much pain and nobody knew what was wrong. So I went on YouTube, I went on Reddit, I went on Instagram, I went on Facebook, and I found these support groups, and I found I diagnosed myself through these forums. I was like, this is what I have. This is me. I'm not crazy. And so anywhere you can find support, whether it's a friend that you know, whether it's me, whether it's Dr. Aliabadi, whether it's this podcast, something, because you can't get through these things alone. And I don't think you should. And I'm so happy that I can be that for people. And I'm so happy that I have Dr. A that can be that for me, and that we can all support each other. It's the only good thing about all of this. So we have each other.
One thing that really hit home for me since starting SheMD in 2024 is that being healthy really means taking care of my whole body inside and out. Thanks to Symbiotica's liposomal vitamin C, it's been easier to make sure my energy, digestion, immune system, and mood are supportive. When you hear vitamin C, you might think of how it boosts your immune system, which is true. But did you know that vitamin C also supports collagen production? Symbiotica's liquid liposomal vitamin C packets contain cutting-edge technology to deliver better absorption. That means better results for you and me. It tastes great. My favorite is their citrus vanilla flavor. Their liquid travel size packets are perfect for when you are on the go. It's truly the easiest thing I've done for my health. Symbiotica is one of the most trustworthy brands out there. You can taste and feel the quality and care in every packet. We have a special offer just for you listeners. Go to symbiotica.com/SheMD for 20% off plus free shipping. That's symbiotika.com/SheMD to claim 20% off plus free shipping today. When was the last time you truly listened to your gut? Misleading health advice is everywhere, and much of what we know about food is wrong. We talk a lot about gut health on SheMD, and a lot of guidance can be confusing. That's where Zoe comes in. Zoe is backed by one of the world's largest microbiome databases and the most scientifically advanced at-home gut health test. Their scientists have identified 50 gut microbes associated with positive health outcomes and 50 linked to negative ones. Zoe provides you with detailed results so that you can understand exactly what's happening in your gut. Clinical trials have shown that Zoe's personalized nutrition program works. With regular retesting, Zoe helps you track your gut health and ensures your advice stays up to date. As a Zoe member, you'll get an at-home test kit and personalized nutrition program to help you make smarter food choices that support your gut. Go to Zoe.com to learn more today. That's ZOE.com. Use the exclusive code SheMD10 to get 10% off membership. That's code SheMD10 to get 10% off. Trust your gut. Trust Zoe. Life is too short to wear bad bras. Luckily, today's episode is brought to you by Honeylove. Honey Love is on a mission to embolden women of all shapes and sizes through high-quality shapewear that can be worn comfortably and effectively. I've been wearing their crossover bra daily. It's the first time I haven't felt like I need to rip my bra off as soon as I get home. At this point in my life, if it's not comfortable, I'm not wearing it. And Honey Love isn't just about bras. They've got shapewear, tanks, and leggings that are just as comfortable and supportive. Honey Love's products give me a flattering fit without discomfort. Their seamless design makes it invisible under dresses, skirts, and even pants. Their bras are especially popular for their wire-free support, smoothing effect, and high-quality materials. Treat yourself to the most comfortable bra on earth and save 20% off site-wide at honeylove.com/GMD. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off honeylove.com/GMD. You may see a prompt after your purchase that asks where you heard about Honey Love. Please let them know it was from an episode of SheMD. And, you're in this amazing, happy, you've been very, very vocal about past relationships, and some of them haven't been as supportive as what you're going through now. And I also really respect how you have been very vocal about it, because I think so many young girls are living right now in this world with, and sometimes social media is a great thing and sometimes it's not, but just in this world of this is how it's supposed to be. Like, what would you tell anyone listening about that? Like, they see you now and Instagram feels like this beautiful fairy tale. And it is. You're living in this wonderful relationship. I am too, and so is Thais. We're so blessed to have these magical relationships, but that has not always been the case for me. And that has not always been the case for you. And you've been very vocal about that. What would you tell like a young girl listening right now about that?
I think everything happens for a reason, which I know it's so cliche to say, but looking back on everything that I've gone through and all of the horrible people that I've come across, it makes what I have now so much more special. It makes me appreciate what I have so much more. My gratitude is off the charts because of the bad times. And if you are going through a bad time, this is just a chapter in your book. It's just a moment in time, and you will look back and be grateful for it. It's so hard to know in the moment. So just stay strong and, keep trucking along. Everything works out how it's supposed to, and just keep reminding yourself of that. It's so hard going through it, but just, it will all make sense. And what was the, did you just all of a sudden wake up one day and just get the strength to be like, no, like, back up, buddy? I mean, like, what was there a moment? Was it a couple of lessons that had to happen, or was there just like the stars shine down that day? Well, that's actually a good question. With my one relationship was extremely toxic, which I have talked about before, and it really was like an epiphany. It was an epiphany that I had in a moment. I remember I was on my knees praying to God, please give me the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Please get me out of this situation. I was in a really toxic situation, and it's a story that people, a very similar story to a lot of women out there, which is why I share it. And anyway, in that moment, it was like the wool came from over my eyes. I could finally see. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm actually moving out of this situation. And I removed myself from a really scary place. And I'm really proud of myself for that. But a lot of women who go through these really toxic situations can speak to the same thing. It kind of is like a miracle that you experience, because you're in a sense addicted and stuck in a very tumultuous merry-go-round, and you can't get out of it. You can't imagine your life anywhere else, and you get stuck. No, I think that's amazing. I think that is such a powerful message. And that's what we're trying to do in this podcast, is to empower women. We want to empower women to be their own health advocate. And you kind of can't be your own health advocate if you're not taking care of yourself in your relationships too. I think that we talk about it all the time. If you're sad or depressed or in an abusive relationship, like, you can't take care of your health because you can't even see the forest from the trees. So I think just you talking about that so openly is really amazing. Can you, now let's just get girly for 2 minutes, because we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but can you tell us, what is your exercise routine? Like, how do you take care of your body? Your skin. Tell us everything. I know, when I had to start my IUD, it was like, is this going to keep me young forever? We're like, no. But skin, I'm crazy about skin stuff. I would say the most important thing for skin is sleep, happiness, gratitude, not over cleansing is something that I think is really important. I think you need to, you don't want to break down the skin barrier. You don't want to dry out your skin. And I feel like I've had moments where I'm breaking out. And so I think to over cleanse my skin and then it actually ends up not working. So I use a cleansing balm or like a lotion based cleanser. Those are my 2 tricks. I think a retinol is important after 30 or 27, let's say. Workouts, I like just standard circuit training. I also love working out in a group if you have a workout buddy. So find a workout buddy, find some retinol, drink some water, and you'll be great and be happy. Get a gratitude journal.
And do you eat everything? Are you conscious about what you eat? Do you intermittent fast? Like, are there any secrets that you have on that end?
I will say there were times in my life when I was really diligent about my diet and what I ate. And I did not break the rules. I am not like that at all anymore. And I'm so much happier. I don't know. I personally stick to 80-20. And honestly, the 80-20 world, meaning like 80% of the time I will eat. Honestly, it's more like 70-30. 70% of the time I'll be really great. And then 30% of the time I just kind of eat whatever I want. But in moderation, I want to feel good. And I think part of feeling good is not only, indulging in the things that you want to indulge in, but also not overdoing it. You don't want to indulge to the point that you feel sick and disgusting anyway. So listen to your body. When your body's telling you not to eat anymore, don't eat anymore. But if you want a piece of chocolate cake, have some chocolate cake.
Have some chocolate cake.
It's so inspiring to look at you. You're beautiful. You're happy. There's a glow from inside of you. And I think, like you said, it's all gratitude and having gotten yourself to a place where you have a nice partner and you are pain-free. And I mean, you're living your best life. And I'm so happy for you and with your wedding coming up. And I can't wait to deliver your little munchkins.
I know.
Thank you. That would be fun.
We need a little Olivia running around.
Olivia. Oh, yes. Although I will tell you, being a mom of boys is not bad either. I mean, it's pretty fun too. I know it's pretty fun too. Now, Olivia, are there any projects that you want to talk about? Are there anything that coming up in the works that you're excited about?
I have a film that just came out called Clawfoot. And I'm getting married. Hopefully we have a Super Bowl on the horizon.
Oh,
yes. I mean, that's what I'm manifesting. I don't know.
That's exciting.
Were you a football fan before?
I was, not as much as I am now, but yes, I feel like honestly, it's the rules are tough. Do you guys watch football?
Yes, I do.
Don't.
I know she doesn't at all.
I don't do anything,
I'm like
you
on
guys.
Sundays, I'm like football all the time. Like I said, I was like a god in my own house today because I had you on the podcast. They were like, "You don't understand, Mom."
That's so funny. Oh my God, he's right over there. You should have had him come say hi. But
Give us the best piece of advice anyone has ever given you.
this is easy. My mom, it was when I was going through a really hard time and I didn't see a way out. And she said, work hard and be a good person. And whenever I feel like my ego is getting too big or the world is beating me down in one way or the other, I just remember that and everything is put into perspective. Work hard and be a good person. Simple and easy.
When it was all said and done and you had you finally diagnosed, you had the surgery, tell us what that felt like.
Total miracle. When I could go about my day pain-free, when it actually worked, I felt so lucky and such an immense amount of gratitude, which is why I love being able to pay it forward in whatever way I can. I want women to feel pain-free. I want women like me who had no answers to finally live the life they want and then pay it forward again to the next generation.
You know what my dream is? And I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to say it on this podcast because it will come true. I want the First Lady of United States. I don't know which year. I don't care who it is. I want her to go on mic on national TV and say painful periods are not normal.
That would be amazing. Maybe it will be you. Maybe. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
Actually, it's going to be me. I really want to be first lady. My husband wants to run for president at some point, and I always said I'd be a great first lady. I don't want to be president. I just want to be first lady. It's just I don't want that experience or that on my shoulders, but so let's just say that on this podcast, pretty soon, Mary Alice will be first lady. I will get up there and I will say painful periods are not.
And I'm going to send you a daily script.
Okay, good. Olivia, you're the best. Thank you so much.
You guys are the best.
You really
are.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you for using your voice and you're gonna change so many people's lives by hearing your story, because you're not crazy. And that is the message that women get so much in different parts of the healthcare system. And it's why we wanted to start this podcast. We want to put the power back in the woman's hands and say, it's okay that you don't know my diagnosis. I do. This is what I have, and I need you to fix it. And this is what you need to do to fix it. So It's just about, it's not to
self-advocacy.
It's self-advocacy. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, she's amazing. I mean, she's as beautiful as she is outside as she is inside. And to use her voice and be so open about endometriosis and all of her symptoms and all that is incredible.
Incredible. I mean, a lot of patients get diagnosed with endometriosis, and when I ask them to use their platform, they shy away. So I have so much respect for for Olivia for using her platform to bring awareness. I always say, even if you can help one little girl, one person in your life, then you've done your job. And with her and her platform, she's going to help thousands and thousands of girls. So I'm really excited.
So in love and so happy. And I love seeing that too. And that's also a great thing. I like to see when good things happen to good people.
But in reality, let me tell you something. When patients have chronic pain, do you think she would have been here today?
Right.
No, because when you don't feel good about yourself, when you're constantly in pain, she's lucky. There are a lot of patients with endometriosis who are addicted to Vicodin and Norco because of pain, right? And so then they go to the doctor and you look up their medication list and there's Norco and Vicodin and Percocet. And immediately as a doctor, what do you say? She's a drug seeker, right? She's not a drug seeker.
She's in pain.
She's in pain, and you people are not diagnosing her. That's why she's using this, because she has nowhere else to go. So when you spiral down to that point, how could you find this life? That's what's so heartbreaking with these endometriosis patients. That's why, I really want to scream. I really want to do. The number of patients I see on my exam table crying every day when I tell them they have endometriosis, you know what the first thing they tell me is? I feel validated.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah, you have to
That's
listen.
the first thing. Almost every single one of them says that. It's like, for years, I thought in my heart, with my gut, that this is my diagnosis. It's so important for patients to know what the diagnosis is, what their symptoms are. This is not rocket science. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about something that's out there. It's just common sense. If you have painful periods, it's endometriosis. If someone's telling you it's not, go find another doctor.
Right.
It's very simple. It's not that
So
complicated.
you think every single person with painful period has...
No,
Okay.
but every single person with painful period needs to be ruled out for endometriosis, because the price you pay is so big. You don't want to lose your eggs, and you don't want to lose your egg quality.
Well, how do you rule out endometriosis?
By going to an experienced physician. And you know what? The easiest thing I can say for our listeners, if you have a doctor that doesn't believe in you, if you can't afford seeing an endometriosis specialist and you have painful periods, go on a progesterone birth control pill. That's the easiest thing you can do. Go on a very, very low dose combination birth control pill. You can go on any form of birth control pill, anyone. You can go to Planned Parenthood and get birth control pill. Do that for a few months. Your body is not a light switch. It will take 3 to 6 months for the birth control pill to kick in. So don't take it for a month and come and tell your friend it didn't work. You really have to be patient. Do it for a few months. If you're pain-free, stay on that birth control pill until you're ready to have a baby. Check your egg count every year.
How do you check your egg count?
It's a blood test called AMH, anti-Müllerian hormone. You can also do an ultrasound and do a follicular count and count the number of follicles. I like doing the blood test. You can do it at any time in the cycle. It's very accurate. It's covered by insurance. And then follow your own journey. Every year, do your egg count. If you see it declining, go freeze eggs. The problem with egg freezing is
Not covered by insurance.
not covered by insurance. When women are young and their eggs are good, they don't have money, they can't afford it. When they're old and their eggs are old and the egg quality and quantity is down, that's when they can afford it. So until we get these this procedure covered by insurance.
Does the birth control pill stop the inflammation, so stop the eggs from dying?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's something you can do. If you can't afford to freeze your eggs, you can absolutely get on one of these progesterone birth control pills and then just kind of follow your egg count.
Yes. Progesterone birth control pill, combination low dose birth control pill with estrogen and progesterone, that's fine too. If you want to have a progesterone IUD, great. Do not use a copper IUD, which is the non-hormonal IUD. If your doctor wants to offer you a non-hormonal IUD and you already have painful periods, that could push you in the emergency room. Copper IUD, do you know which one that is? It's a 10-year IUD, is very commonly used.
So it's fine if you don't have endometriosis.
Bravo. But even if you don't have endometriosis, it can make your periods a few days heavier and crampier. So there are doctors who use these copper T IUDs for endometriosis patients, and they really end up in the emergency room. So when I see them, the first thing I do is I at least pull the copper T IUD out, and then I offer them either a progesterone birth control pill, a combination low dose birth control pill, a progesterone IUD, and if I watch them for 4 to 6 months. If they still have pain, then I consider other medications like Myfembry or Alyssa, medications that lower their body's estrogen. So estrogen feeds endo. By lowering estrogen, you slow down the growth of these endometriosis implants. And if all fails, then you find yourself a doctor who's experienced in endometriosis surgery. And with an outpatient laparoscopic surgery, usually the downtime is 3 to 5 days.
And insurance covers that?
Yes, absolutely.
And with endometriosis, does it stop when you go into perimenopause?
Yes, when you go through menopause or no more estrogen.
Right. But what if you're on hormone replacement?
Usually I watch patients, some patients have adenomyosis, and when I put them on hormone replacement, they still have breakthrough bleed or they have pain or pelvic pain. Then one option is at that point, if the uterus is abnormal, you can do a hysterectomy and then go on hormone replacement. But usually after menopause, it's not a big of a deal. My most concern is with fertility issues that come with endometriosis and the chronic pain that comes with it. I want to add one more thing. Majority of patients with endometriosis also suffer from SIBO. Have you heard of SIBO?
Yes, I didn't know that.
SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Why?
Because of that chronic inflammation. I honestly, the pathophysiology of it, I don't understand. But endometriosis causes a leaky gut. I think it's because of all that inflammatory process in the pelvis. These patients usually complain of bloating. They go to the doctor, their GI doctor diagnoses them with SIBO, treats them with SIBO. They come back 2 months later, they're back to square one. Why? Because their endometriosis is not suppressed. So usually what I do in my practice is I suppress their endometriosis, watch them for 4 months. They do a follow-up with me in 4 months. If they're still bloated, at that point, I treat them for SIBO. They don't need to take a breath test to diagnose SIBO. You can just go ahead and treat them. And if there's bloating goes away, then I know the bloating was because of all that inflammation from endometriosis, and they do not need treatment for SIBO, if that makes sense.
We're gonna do a whole episode on SIBO because I feel like I'm hearing that
it's
all
everywhere.
over the place. It's just rampant right now. So we're definitely going to do that. So Thais, how does the listener know if they have endometriosis? If they have a painful period, like what are the symptoms?
The most common symptoms are painful periods that could be heavy, painful sex, mostly with deep penetration, severe bloating associated with pain during their period, recurrent bladder infections, chronic pelvic pain, pain with bowel movement, sometimes pain with urination. So any kind of pain in the pelvis needs to be worked up as endometriosis in a woman in their reproductive age. So I'm not talking about a 6-year-old postmenopausal woman with pelvic pain. I'm talking about women in their reproductive age with pain in the pelvis. It's endometriosis until proven otherwise.
And what is the difference between polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, and endometriosis?
Two completely different conditions. Endometriosis is when cells similar to the endometrial lining are outside of the uterus and they cause an inflammatory process in the pelvis. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a condition that affects 15% of women, and these women tend to have more follicles in their ovaries. There's a certain look to the ovary. And these patients have androgen sensitivity or extra testosterone in their body that can cause irregular periods, acne, weight gain, hair loss, facial hair, body hair, and different symptoms. It's important to know that even though PCOS and endometriosis are two completely separate medical conditions, 40% or approximately half of patients with PCOS also suffer from endometriosis. So when I see a PCOS patient, I always make sure I ask about painful periods, painful sex, and all the other symptoms of endometriosis. The last thing I want to leave our listeners with is, if you go to the doctor and your symptoms are dismissed, please look up an endometriosis specialist near you. Go to someone who's done this, who knows how to do the surgery, who's dealt with endometriosis, and I will promise you that you're going to see relief. 2 more points. Egg count is very important. I've had 14-year-olds in my office with severely painful period that I do an egg count and their egg count is as low as a 40-year-old. So it's important to diagnose these patients. Endometriosis symptoms can start as early as age 8, right? So by 14, they could have had it for many, many years. So it's important, if you're a mom, you have daughters at home with painful periods, make sure you ask your pediatrician to do an egg count. But if your pediatrician is not willing to do it, at least by age 18 with painful periods, you need to check an egg count. And if it's low, it would be great to see a fertility doctor.
And
at
freeze
least,
your eggs.
Yes, they don't freeze under age 18, but after 18, if the egg count is really low, you can absolutely go and freeze your eggs. And I want patients to remember this.
So right now, there's no real test for endometriosis. There's not a blood test.
We don't really need a blood test to diagnose endometriosis. We just need doctors to listen to their patients and do not dismiss the symptoms of painful period or other symptoms of endometriosis. I've taught my urology friends that when you have a young girl who comes to your office with recurrent bladder infections, think endometriosis. I've taught the GI doctor that if you have a patient that comes in with lower abdominal pain, you don't need to do a colonoscopy in a 17-year-old. It's probably endometriosis. So I think these podcasts, patients like Olivia, Halsey, all the people who have used their platform to bring awareness to this condition and educate women will help push this message forward, and eventually we're going to fix it and we're going to have everyone talk about it.
To find more information on endometriosis and Dr. A's action plan, visit our website at shemdpodcast.com and follow us on social media at shemdpodcast. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode.